everybody, and welcome back to another week of my college football pick'em. This is week 3. Just a reminder for anybody who's new out there, these games are all from ESPN's college football pick'em games. So they give me 10 games every week, and I like to just make a video here breaking down my thoughts and predictions for each of those 10 games. A recap of last week, week 2, my picks. I had another 6-4 record, so 6-4 in week 1, 6-4 in week 2. I'm now 12-8 on the year. So let's try to improve on that with my week 3 picks, and let's get into it. So the first game on the docket, it is Fox's big noon kickoff. It is number 6 Oklahoma versus Nebraska, a classic rivalry game that has been renewed recently. Since 2004, Oklahoma has dominated this series, posting a 6-1 record against the Cornhuskers, although this is only their second meeting since 2010. Oklahoma's biggest area of improvement this season has got to be on the defensive side of the ball. They obviously bring in head coach Brent Venables, who has an extensive defensive background at both Oklahoma and Clemson, and defensive coordinator Ted Roof has a lot of experience around major college football as well. This defense is allowing only 8 points per game so far on the season, although it is against lesser competition. That is still an impressive mark. On the offensive side of the ball, transfer quarterback Dillon Gabriel and offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby, those two were together in 2019 at UCF, where Dillon Gabriel had one of his best years. They have played pretty well so far, and I expect them to only get better as the season wears on. The offense will progress, and those two will mesh together, and it'll be just like it was before. This should be an interesting look at this regime in Norman, as this is their first road test of the year, and it will be against a sold-out crowd, most likely. I'm not sure if it's officially sold out yet or not, but it should be a sellout. In Nebraska, speaking of Nebraska, taking a look at the Cornhuskers, this is the first game since the firing of Scott Frost. Whenever you fire a coach 3 games into the season, you know it is not a good sign. Former LSU assistant Mickey Joseph will handle the interim responsibilities. Nebraska has been off to a rough start this season. They are 1-2 on the year with losses in Ireland to Northwestern and against Georgia Southern at home. That Georgia Southern team, the Cornhuskers, paid over $1 million for Georgia Southern to come to Nebraska and play them. However, despite this rough start, Nebraska still has talent on their roster, particularly on the offensive side. Quarterback Casey Thompson, who's a transfer from Texas, is talented and he can be efficient with the ball given the right amount of time and the right offense to compete in. As well as running back Anthony Grant has also put up solid numbers this season. Nebraska's biggest struggle has been on the defensive side of the ball. This has been an uphill climb for the Cornhuskers, and it will continue to do so. I do not see this defense creating any kind of fix overnight, but this is an opportunity in this game against Oklahoma. Despite their struggles, despite the national attention that has been put on this program and this brand in a rather negative light, this is an opportunity for the Cornhuskers to go out and really fight hard and compete against one of the best teams in the country and show that these guys in this locker room and this coaching staff, they have not quit on this team, and they're going to continue to fight for the remaining games on their schedule. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, they give Oklahoma a 75.3% chance to win, and I do think Nebraska will keep it closer than some people expect, but I'm going to take the Sooners. I will take Oklahoma to get the win over Nebraska in a big noon showdown. Transitioning now to our next game on the docket, it's number 12 BYU versus number 25 Oregon. This one is a 3:30 game, and it can be seen on Fox as well. BYU is coming off a huge win over Baylor in double overtime last week. They rose 9 spots in the most recent AP poll, which I believe was the second most behind Kentucky. I have looked at BYU in my first 2 pick'em videos. Week 1, they took on South Florida. They got the win in that one, 50-21. Last week, they took on Baylor in Provo, Utah, and I picked against the Cougars, but they showed me they got the win against Baylor, and I said it last week, and I will say it again. The strength for this BYU team is in their trenches. Their offensive line last week gave up just 2 sacks to a very good Baylor front 7. The play of their quarterback, Jaron Hall, has also been improved as well. He has been playing rather impressive, and I believe it's largely in thanks to his offensive line and defensive line. Both of those sides of the ball in their trenches, they are playing well, they are creating pressure, and that's where a lot of teams, and that's where physicality stems from. That's where teams are really defined as good or great. That can be a difference maker for a lot of teams out there. Looking to Oregon now, their 2022 season got off to a rough start when Georgia blew them out in Atlanta. It was 49-3. I'm sure a lot of college football fans remember watching that one and just thinking, wow, this is the product that Oregon has put on the field. Yikes. But I think a bigger takeaway from that game is, holy cow, Georgia is just that good. Last week, Oregon licked their wounds a little at home, and they put up 70 points against Eastern Washington. And I know some people will say, well, it was Eastern Washington, but I believe putting up 70 on anybody is impressive. The Ducks have won 28 straight non-conference home games, and they will be looking to keep that streak alive in what will be a very tough opponent coming up to the Autzen Zoo. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, they give Oregon a slight lean 54.3% chance to win. And I think a lot of people nationally maybe wrote Oregon off after that Georgia win. And I like this Oregon team. I like Dan Lanning. I like what he brings in terms of just his defensive background. And I like what they have up front on their lines of scrimmage. But I learned my lesson last week. I'm not going to pick against BYU again. I'm going to take BYU to get the win on the road in what will be another impressive win on the Cougars' resume. Our next game on the docket, it's number 22 Penn State traveling to Auburn. This one is a 3:30 game on CBS. Taking a look at the Nittany Lions, they enter this game with a 2-0 record. Last week, the Nittany Lions took on the Bobcats of Ohio, and they got a lot of production from their younger talent. In last week's win, I believe it was approximately 75% of their team's total yards came from freshmen, which is quite impressive. Although this contributions from the freshmen were significant last week, I believe that their veteran leadership will have to play a big role as they travel to a hostile environment in Jordan-Hare. Speaking of veteran leadership, there is almost no one more veteran than quarterback Sean Clifford. He will play a key role in this game. If Sean Clifford is making the right throws and the right decisions and really being a strong leader on the sideline and in the huddle, that will definitely be a positive point for the Nittany Lions. And you have to expect that from a guy like Clifford, who's been doing this as long as he has been. Penn State's offensive line, I think, more so than Clifford, will be the make or break point. They have to protect Clifford first off. They have to give him time to throw and keep him upright. They gave up, I believe, 3 sacks last week to Ohio, which, no disrespect to Ohio, but if you're giving up that many sacks to Ohio, you better watch out how many you give up to what will be a much bigger physical defensive line for the Auburn Tigers. But also in terms of, in addition to pass protection, they have to be good at run protection. Penn State's freshman running back, Nick Singleton, went for 179 yards last week in what was one of the most impressive performances we've seen from a Penn State running back in quite some time. If Penn State can duplicate that performance and have a strong running game, I like their chances in this one against the Auburn Tigers. Head coach James Franklin's road record is questionable. He has just a 20-18 record on the road, which has been frustrating for a lot of Penn State fans to see, and this environment at Jordan-Hare will no doubt be one of their toughest of the year. Taking a look now at Auburn, they are also 2-0 coming into this rematch. They have not really faced any tough competition. They took on Mercer and San Jose State, so this will really be their first crack at a Power 5 opponent, somebody who's really going to be able to push them around and maybe force them to, get a little uncomfortable situations. This team's strength lies in their running game. They are averaging over 240 yards per game on the ground, and quarterback TJ Finley is an effective part of that running game. He has struggled with turnovers at times this season, having 3 interceptions already on the season, but it's hard to factor in that turnovers are going to occur. It's hard to guarantee that, but in terms of if Penn State can get him in situations where he has to throw the ball, on this secondary for the Nittany Lions, which is one of the best, they have very talented pieces such as Joey Porter Jr. and Jair Brown at safety. It could be problematic for the Auburn Tigers. Now, if Tank Bigsby and this frankly deep running back room for the Tigers really is effective on first and second down and really pushes the Nittany Lions defensive line and their front 7 around, which is younger than it was a year ago when these two teams played, that could create some positive momentum for Auburn. Now, ESPN's Football Power Index does like Penn State in this one with a 61.7% chance to win, and I had a tough time going back and forth with who I thought was going to win this one, but I'm going to go with Penn State to go in there on the road and get the win in a big-time moment for Coach Franklin and for this entire program in what could really be a springboard for where this team's trajectory is for the rest of the season. Switching gears now, we have Colorado versus Minnesota. This one is a 3:30 game on ESPN2. Taking a look at the Buffaloes of Colorado, they have struggled this season under third-year head coach Karl Dorrell. Offensively, the Buffaloes are averaging just 11.5 points per game, and they rank outside the top 100 in both passing and rushing yards per game. On defense, it is not much better for Colorado, as they have given up nearly 40 points per game so far this season. Taking a look at Minnesota, they have been dominant to the start of the 2022 season. The Golden Gophers are averaging 50 points per game on offense, and they are allowing just 5 points per game on the defensive side of the ball. This team is also experienced at quarterback with Tanner Morgan back. The running back room is experienced as well, and their offensive line is big, physical, and deep. That is usually what you can expect from a Minnesota team. I would expect this Colorado defense has had trouble stopping the run, and Minnesota's one of their strengths is running the ball. So expect a lot of ground and pound action from the Golden Gophers as I expect them to just take it right to the Colorado Buffaloes. ESPN's Football Power Index gives Minnesota a 94.8% chance to win this game, and I am going to agree with the FPI. I will take the Golden Gophers to get the win at home over the Buffaloes. Next game on the agenda is Troy versus Appalachian State. This one is a 3:30 game and can be seen on ESPN+. Troy is an experienced group. They have 18 returning starters and they have 62 returning lettermen from a season ago. The Trojans do, however, have a new head coach, John Summerall. The strength of this team is in their defensive line, which is one of the best in the Sun Belt, or as you may know it, the Fun Belt Conference after some of the games and upsets that this conference has pulled last week. On the offensive side of the ball, their receivers and their quarterbacks are both talented and experienced, and they are capable of making big plays, which could be trouble for the Appalachian State Mountaineers. Taking a look now at App State, I just say Appalachian there, but Appalachian State is coming off a massive win for the program. They defeated Texas A&M last week in a 17-14 victory on the road in College Station, which they also got paid a nice $1.5 million. So that was always a nice little cherry on top. College Game Day is going to be on site for this one, which I believe it is their first time going to Boone, North Carolina. So that is just going to add to the hype around this program right now. Appalachian State, they are very talented in many different facets of the game. They've got an experienced quarterback, they've got depth, they've got great talent all over, and they've got a well-coached program. In terms of the Sun Belt and sort of group of 5 teams, Appalachian State is consistently one of the better teams, and they have a reputation and they are known for playing the bigger teams better, and they just hang with the big boys quite well. Now, obviously, Troy is not one of the big boys, but let's take a look at ESPN's Football Power Index. They give Appalachian State an 83.7% chance to get the win, and I have to agree with the FPI once again. I'm going to take the Mountaineers to get the win at home over the Troy Trojans. Switching now to a night game. This is a 6 p.m. game on ESPN. This is Mississippi State versus LSU. Starting with Mississippi State, the road team here, they are off to a good start with a 2-0 record and an average margin of victory of 24 points. Quarterback Will Rogers is top 10 in the nation in passing yards, and he is tied for second in the nation with passing touchdowns so far. He has 9 passing touchdowns on the season so far, and that's only through 2 games. I previewed Mississippi State, I believe, in week 1 when they took on Memphis, and I said it then, and I'll say it now. Rogers is one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. He's been a major factor so far in the Bulldogs' success, and Mike Leach's air raid offense is helping him be even more successful. I would not be surprised, and it should be expected, that Will Rogers will continue to put up big numbers as the season progresses, and LSU better watch out, because if not, they could be the victim of a Will Rogers outstanding performance. Looking now to the Tigers on the other side, talking about Will Rogers, LSU's ability to stop Mississippi State's offense, which loves to thrive through the air, will be their key to victory. LSU's secondary has had lots of talent over the years, and it's one of their strengths. Some refer to them as DBU. I'm not going to state that claim right here. But this offseason, they've gained a lot of additions through the transfer portal, and with their general just solid recruiting at that position, they have talent back there in the defensive backfield. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, they give LSU a slight lean with this one with a 56.6% chance to win, but I say to hell with the FPI. I am taking the Bulldogs of Mississippi State to go in on the road and beat the LSU Tigers. I think that this might cause some LSU fans to go into a panic, and especially from the national media, there might be some questioning about Brian Kelly and his ability to coach. I would not go that far. I would not panic if I was an LSU fan, but I just think Mississippi State is that good. Moving on to the next game on the docket, it is Texas Tech paying a visit to Raleigh, North Carolina. Well, they will take on number 16, North Carolina State. This one is at 7 p.m. on ESPN2. The Joey McGuire era is off to a good start with a 2-0 record and a win over a ranked Houston team last week. Starting quarterback Tyler Shaw is still expected to be out with injury, and backup quarterback Donovan Smith will continue to start. The Red Raiders lead the nation in passing yards per game, which is not surprising when you consider that their offensive coordinator Zach Kittley comes from a Western Kentucky offense that broke numerous NCAA records. Quarterback Smith will need to play with poise, and he will have to avoid making costly mistakes that could set the Red Raiders back. This North Carolina State defense is very stout. They have 10 returning starters back from a season ago, and preseason they were thought of as one of the teams that could potentially take the ACC and win it all in that conference. Speaking of the Wolfpack, let's take a closer look at them. They are one of the more experienced teams in the entire country. They have a head coach who has been with this program for a decade, so he has firmly laid his culture, and he has got his guys in there. The running game for the Wolfpack has been a strong point on their offense. Their leading rusher is averaging 7.1 yards per carry. They have played well defensively too, and the Wolfpack on the defensive side of the ball look to continue improving that. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, they like North Carolina State with a 67.6% chance to win this game, and I'm going to have to agree there. I'll take North Carolina State to defend their home turf and get the win here, but do not write off Texas Tech. They are playing very well this year, and I would not be surprised if this is a close game into the fourth quarter. Taking a look now at number 11, Michigan State versus Washington. I realize I don't have the time up there. This is a 7:30 p.m. game. And it will be seen on ABC. Michigan State is coming off one of their largest shutouts in school history, and Mel Tucker has been preaching all week about taking it one game at a time and trusting the process. Whatever that process might be, it has been working so far for Mel Tucker and his Spartans of East Lansing. In Tucker's 2 seasons with the program, obviously last year they put up, I believe it was an 11-win season. They blew a lot of people's expectations away, and they have another big opportunity to do that in a primetime moment against a Power 5 school. The Spartans' defense has been on a roll so far. That's probably what I would focus on the most for them. That's their high point. They lead the Big Ten in sacks, and they are allowing just 6.5 points per game. On the other side of the field here, we have Washington. They are off to a 2-0 start under new head coach Kalen DeBoer, and they have transfer quarterback Michael Penix Jr., who has some familiarity with Michigan State as he is coming from Indiana University. Penix Jr. has played well to start the year, and the Huskies' offense has been moving the ball well as they rank 6th in the nation for passing yards per game. Offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb has led some very high-powered offenses at Fresno State, and I would expect this Washington offense to keep it rolling. The offensive production will be key for Washington against a very well-coached Michigan State team, as we mentioned, a team that also has a very sound defense. The FPI likes Michigan State slightly, giving them a 53.4% chance to win. I'll be interested in how much the crowd has a factor on the Spartans, but I am going to take Michigan State to get the win in this one over Washington in a big road test, which would likely vault Michigan State into the top 10. Moving on now, we have UCF versus Florida Atlantic at 7:30 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. UCF is looking to bounce back after a tough loss last week to Louisville. UCF will have their first road test of the year, and the Knights offense, who was held to just 14 points last week, will look to rebound against the Owls. Quarterback John Rise Plumlee has been the Knights' playmaker. He has gained yards through the air and on the ground. I believe he leads them in both passing and rushing yards, so he's a very dynamic playmaker and someone that FAU will want to keep in check. This is an experienced UCF team on both sides of the ball, and they are well coached, as Gus Malzahn is their head coach. Yes, that Gus Malzahn who was at Auburn and had a lot of success down there. This will be a key. I believe their coaching and their depth will be key to helping them bounce back after a somewhat disappointing performance last week against Louisville. This Florida Atlantic team is a team that I have seen play in person. I saw them take on the Ohio Bobcats in what was week 1 of the college football season. This offense I have seen can put up points. They are averaging 41 points per game, and N'Kosi Perry at quarterback, a transfer from Miami, Florida. He can make throws, and he has great physical characteristics as well. On the defensive side of the ball, the Owls will need to be prepared to counter against the dual threat quarterback for UCF, and I think this one could easily be high scoring. I'm not sure what the over-under is set at, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a higher scoring affair between these two dynamic offenses. Looking at the Football Power Index, UCF has a 67.6% chance to win, and I'm going to concur with the FPI. I will take UCF to get the win on the road. And our last game of the night is number 13 Miami versus number 24 Texas A&M. This one is a 9 p.m. start time on ESPN. Taking a look at the Hurricanes first, this is the first big test of the Mario Cristobal era. The Hurricanes have won their opening 2 contests as expected, but this week the Hurricanes will face a difficult test. Quarterback Tyler Van Dyke for Miami is one of the nation's best, and he will have a challenge on his hand as he goes against what should be a motivated and physical Texas A&M defense. Miami is talented at the line of scrimmage and is more than capable of standing up to A&M. On defense, Miami is an improving unit and is going up against an offense that has struggled so far this year, so it would not be an overstatement to say Miami has the advantage in terms of their defense over A&M's offense. Let's transition now to take a look at the Aggies of A&M. Texas A&M came into the season with very high expectations. Everybody is well aware of the recruiting class they brought in. It was not only the highest ranked last year, but it is the highest ranked recruiting class in the history of recruiting classes since they began tracking them. Last week, though, we all know what happened to Texas A&M. They fell to Appalachian State at home. This week, A&M, they've got to turn things around, and they have to turn things around quickly because they have a very talented Miami Hurricanes team coming to town. And if they drop this one, well, then panic will begin to set in for the Aggies. College Station, there might be riots down there. Jimbo Fisher will start to feel the heat on the back of his neck. There will be a lot more pressure on him to turn this around because, frankly, if you would have told A&M fans that they would start 1-2 to start the year, they would not have believed it, and that was not the expectation. And if they drop this one, that's not living up to their expectations. Offensive adjustments will need to be made for Texas A&M. That would be critical to their success. Their offense has struggled with Haynes King at quarterback, and I have heard that it is an even competition at practice this week. So we'll see if they make any changes or adjustments on the offensive side of the ball, but that is what I and a lot of other people in the media believe is necessary for this Aggies team to see improvement. With this talent on the roster, A&M will need to bring their A game against a budding Miami squad who is just slowly but surely climbing up there as Mario Cristobal builds his culture and really gets his guys prepared for what should be a great game in the night slot on ESPN. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, they give Miami a slight advantage with a 53.6% chance to win on the road. However, I believe that the Aggies of Texas A&M will bounce back. I believe they'll recover, and they will get their stuff together, so to speak, and they will get the win over Miami, but it should be a classic game, and I think this will be a great one. Thank everybody for watching week 3 of my college football preview. I will give a special thanks to ESPN, Sports Reference, and Phil Steele's college football preview for 2022 for helping me make informed decisions in my pick'em here. So I hope everybody enjoys the college football weekend. I hope your favorite team wins, unless they're playing my favorite team. Then I hope they lose. So I hope everybody can join me here next week. We'll break down week 4 games, and everybody enjoy the college football weekend.